how to tune your guitar by ear the right way, because the way most people are shown to do it is wrong, and I'm going to show you why. The way that most people are shown to tune their guitar by ear, and what you are most likely shown as well, is to tune the strings to each other around fret 5, going across the string. So your second string will get tuned to your first at fret 5, making them both E's, your third to your second at fret 4, then fourth to third at fret 5, 5 to 4, 6 to 5, going across the neck. However, this is the way that we want to avoid, because any mistakes you make along this process get accumulated as you go across the strings. So if, when I'm tuning string 2 to string 1, I make a little bit of a mistake there, a bit of inaccuracy, then when I go to tune string 3 to string 2, I'm tuning to a slightly inaccurately tuned string, and this will move further and further out, so by the time you get to string 6, you might be much further out of tune than you think you are. The other terrible mistake people make, and I see this a lot when people are tuning their guitars, is not having a reference point. So they'll be playing a chord and then they go, oh, third string sounds a little bit out of tune, so they tune it to string 3. No, that is the third string. They tune it to string 4. Then play a bit more and then they go, oh no, fourth string sounds a bit out, so they tuned string 4 to string 2. And hang on, string 3, they've just tuned to string 4. Now they've changed string 4 to string 2. So the reference point is moving all over the place, and then the guitar doesn't get in tune. So the first point to tuning your guitar by ear and getting it accurately in tune is to have one string, one reference point that you're tuning every other string to. To get this string in tune, I like to use a tuning fork. This tuning fork in particular is tuned to an A. It says 4/4C on the handle, which is the hertz of your A, the 5th fret of the first string. What you do with a tuning fork is you pinch it on the stem over here. You don't want to touch the fork side of it. Then you tap the fork on something hard and get it bouncing off in a way that it vibrates as much as possible. So if I tap it on my knee, now it's vibrating, I can touch the ball end of it on the bridge of the guitar. This then gives the in-tune note that we can use to tune our first string to. Now we have one string that we know is in tune to use as a reference point to tune all the other strings to. In order to do this, we want to make two strings either the same letter, so both E's, both B's, or if you're a bit more advanced, you can go by a fifth, which is having the notes 5 notes apart. You can tune your A with a note that's 5 notes apart, A, B, C, D, E. Your A can get tuned to your E. This is going to be the next easiest one as an interval to your octave when it comes to hearing if they're in tune or not. So to start with, we can tune string 2 into string 1. So if I play my E at fret 5, that should sound the same as my open E, which is our reference point. Moving on to string 3, what I usually do is I change my first string to a G by fretting it on the 3rd fret, and now I play that with my open 3rd string. Again, tuning string 4 to string 1, I can change my 4th string to an E by playing the 2nd fret of the 4th string. String 5, I would usually use the interval of a 5th because that gives me 2 open strings to use. And of course, your 2 E's, your bass E, your top E can also be open strings. With this way of tuning, every string has been tuned to our reference point of string 1. We did 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1, and this way, if you have a slight error in your tuning, it doesn't compound and accumulate as you go across the strings. String 2 might be very slightly off, but then string 3 could be in, string 4 can be in, it doesn't affect the other strings and how in tune they are. Now you've got the concept, let's have a look at a few tricks and tips that you can use to make this a bit easier or to make this a bit more advanced and a bit more accurate. Firstly, one that I quite like to do is when I'm doing this tuning, I will be fretting with my right hand. So if I fret the 3rd fret of the first string, I then pluck with my finger behind the string, so that's my ring finger, plucking with my index finger, pressing the note down, a bit like how you do an artificial harmonic. This way, when I'm playing, my thumb can play the 3rd string, and this hand is now free to get the strings in tune. If I do it a standard way with playing the two notes, now I don't have any free hands, which means I have to have a bit of guesswork on how far I'm moving the tuning peg. This way, if I put it out again, I can keep playing, keep listening to the strings as I move it into tune. The other tip would be not to tune too high up the neck. If you're taking your B up at fret 12, then often you'll have intonation issues where that fret might be not quite as in tune. It's also far easier to bend the string or pull the string. That is just from adding a bit more tension into the string from how I'm holding the string. This is all going to make the tuning less accurate than using open strings or maybe second or third fret to tune with. If you're getting far more advanced with your ear training and with your tuning, you can tune to a key instead of just to your open string letters. The reason behind this is your C sharp is mathematically different to your D flat. They are right next to each other, but our frets are an approximation of where this note would be. Synthesizers do this automatically. If you're playing a synthesizer, you'd often have to choose what key you're playing in. It's the best place to test this out and hear it, because if you change the key that your synthesizer is tuned to and then play some chords on it, it really will start to sound off. The synthesized sounds make a big difference when it comes to it being a bit out of tune. So pianos, guitars are all tuned approximately between two notes, say your C sharp and your D flat, that are right next to each other. It's an approximate between them, but they're not the same note. In order to tune to a key, what I would be doing is taking the chords, the main chords from this key, and tuning it using those notes. If I'm trying to tune in, say, C in particular, then what I'd be looking to do is get my third, my E, accurate to the C, and then look at the G as the fifth from the C and get that in tune so my chord of C starts to get in tune. From there, I'd be maybe looking at my G chord or my G7 to get that 7, that F, which is going to be that dominant harmony, the dominant 7 leading back into C. I'll be looking at that chord as well to try and get that in tune, because that's going to be the key bits of harmony in any piece in C, and those are the bits we want to have the most in tune. Okay, so we have some ideas of a method that you can use to get your guitar in tune, and we've got some advanced ideas in there as well in case you have a bit more experience and you want to add more to what you're doing. Let's have a quick talk about why you would want to tune by ear instead of just using a tuner or one of the apps you can get on your phone. One of the driving reasons for me is if you can't get your guitar in tune by ear, if you don't have that ear training to be able to hear those fine differences between the notes, when you're playing, you also won't have that ear to be able to guide the sound that you're making. So one of the best places to learn how to develop your ear and really get that accuracy is when you're tuning your guitar, because when you're playing a piece, you won't learn it as quickly because you're concentrating on other things. Then if your ear isn't quite picking up if something's in tune or not, often you'll just end up playing on a guitar that's out of tune without really noticing, and it's going to sound not how you want it to, but you wouldn't quite be sure if this is the guitar being in or out of tune or if it's your technique. And this makes it far harder to progress and actually move your technique and your skill forward while playing the guitar. Finally, speed of tuning, when you get used to tuning by ear, can be far faster than using a tuner. Not to mention, you don't have any of the setup time, and your ear or tuning fork can't run out of batteries. All in all, I would say it's a major benefit to be able to tune your guitar by ear, and it's not just limited to the tuning of your guitar. That leads into the quality of the sound you're making, your intonation when you're playing, and many other things. So if you found this useful for tuning your guitar, like and subscribe, because I'm going to be putting out many more videos that are here to help you level up your guitar playing. And if you have any questions around tuning your guitar, drop them in the comments because I answer them all myself. Also, if you want to learn about modes and how to use them on the guitar, in this video right here, I break down some of the misconceptions around them and the easiest way you can think of them to use them on your guitar. I'll see you in there.